Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm in my car and I'm not gonna face you too much because I have to pay attention, but I do not have time at all today for a video. So I thought I'm on my way to the gym and I'm just quickly gonna record something that might give you guys a little bit of a boost for this weekend and for this week. Last week in Rose's recovery story, she talked about not really having found any sort of guidance or tips on intrusive thoughts, and that made me think, and I thought, have I never made a video about intrusive thoughts? And I guess I haven't. So today we're going to be talking about what the best ways actually to deal with intrusive thoughts. If an intruder would come to your house or would try and invade your space, the whole thing about it being intrusive is that you do not want to have that person there. You know, if the person would knock on your door and you would go, okay, hi, welcome, then that would not be an intruder. So the whole idea of an intrusive thought is you have to understand that intrusive thoughts are the thoughts you least want to have. They're not the thoughts you actually do want to have. If a thought feels intrusive, it's a sign that it is something you are afraid of. It's a sign that it's something that you really do not want at all. There's two types of intrusive thoughts that I see a lot with people, and I'll kind of explain them separately. Something I used to have intrusive thoughts about was when we lived in Antwerp, my boyfriend and I used to go running by the water, and I would take my dog Arturo with me. And every time I went, I would have a thought that I pushed him in the river or in the canal, which sounds awful to say, but every time I had that thought, I was like, oh God, that's so awful. I do not want to do that. I love my dog so much. But exactly that's why I had the thought, because it's like, this would be the absolute worst case scenario. And in that moment, what helps with those types of thoughts is when you're questioning your own actions or you're questioning your own intentions, it's to kind of play it out a little bit and say, okay, would I actually want to go and push my dog in the canal right now? And the answer was always no. So I knew I didn't have to be afraid of the thought. The thought was not any sign of something I wanted to do. Try and see these types of thoughts merely as reflections of what in your mind the worst case scenario would be, and know that that case scenario would never happen if you do not have the desire to actually do it. So that's the first type of intrusive thought. The second type is when it comes to anything external, so anything that could happen that you do not have any control over. So I guess the first type would be labeled intrusive thoughts about things that are in your control and therefore questioning your own control over yourself. And the second part is the intrusive thoughts that have to do with things you are not in control over, such as existential intrusive thoughts. And in this way, the best way to look at it is to try and see your mind as a bully. So if your mind is a bully, and it's trying to like get a reaction out of you, that's basically what it's doing by having these intrusive thoughts. It wants you to fear. It wants you to have this reaction to it. If a bully would come up to you in the playground and it would say, you look so ugly, and you reply, oh my God, that's not true, and oh no, and you try and run from them, you give them the reaction that they want. But if you reply, so the bully says, you're so ugly, and you go, okay, then they might say, well, you're also stupid, and then you go, okay. And if you keep replying, okay, at one point the bully has literally nothing against you anymore because you don't care. And so that's the thing about intrusive thoughts. You have to understand that the only thing that makes them feel intrusive is if you care about them being there, is if you care about not having them and you do not want to have them. But if you can reply, okay, then the intrusive thoughts has nothing on you anymore. So for example, if you have intrusive thoughts about, one second. All right, so if your intrusive question is, for example, what if, there's nothing after death, or what if life is pointless? The only answer you can give that thought is to say, well, okay, then it is what it is. And if you keep doing that, at one point your mind will stop asking you these questions because it knows that it's not getting any sort of emotional reaction out of you, which is exactly what a bully would make you stop bullying. If there was no reaction emotionally at all, after a while they would just give up. They would stop doing that. If you can respond in a way that there's no emotional reaction to it whatsoever, which is difficult because in the beginning they trigger you, but if you keep responding something like okay, or it is what it is, after a while they'll stop bothering you. So to wrap up, kind of a summary. So 2 types of intrusive thoughts. 1, things that you feel you are in control over, but you're afraid of losing control over yourself. What if I commit suicide? What if I go crazy? This and that. In this case, try and really go into the thought and actually ask yourself, is this something that I want to do? And realize that an intrusive thought about suicide, for example, is always a sign that it's something you are very afraid of. Or an intrusive thought about hurting someone else is always a sign that that's the thing you least want to do, that's the thing you are most scared of doing, and you will never voluntarily do something you are afraid of. Second thing is intrusive thoughts about things outside of you that you cannot control. In that case, accept that you can't control it and face the thought by saying, so what? Open the door for the thought. If you open the door for a thought, it's no longer intrusive. It's a welcome thought because you also don't put any weight to it. That's the last thing I think I would say. An intrusive thought only feels intrusive, 1, if you don't want to have it, if you want to resist it, and second of all, if you put so much weight to how much the thought actually means, if you think the thought is telling you the truth about you or the truth about life. But it's understanding an intrusive thought is always a reflection of your worst case scenario. And how often has your worst case scenario that you've had in your mind actually played out to be true? Probably never. So don't believe your thoughts. Don't believe your intrusive thoughts. Don't put too much weight on them. I hope that this guy gave you guys a little bit of reassurance on how to deal with intrusive thoughts. Maybe I'll make like a better video on this topic when I have some more time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you guys in my next video.